Thank you for listening to the Freddy O Show, a podcast devoted to you, the listener, your purpose, your mindset, and your marketing efforts, designed to help you go to that next level. Now here's your host, Freddy O.
I am super excited to have Jodi Krangle on board today. Jodi, welcome to the Freddy O Show.
Thanks so much for having me here.
So let's get this party started. Who is Jodi Krangle?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm still trying to figure it out. Well, I'm a voice actor. I've been doing that since 2007 full time. And I am a podcaster now for probably only about a year, actually. And I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun. It's just kind of an extension of what I've already been doing.
Yeah, and you have actually been the voice in so many as far as your voice acting, in so many big name brand commercials. It's crazy. Like when I looked at your profile, I saw Fancy Feast, the cat food, NFL, Coca-Cola, Chase Bank, KFC, Disney. The list goes on and on. That obviously did not happen overnight. What was the journey like?
The journey is a long one. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to learn the craft. It does take coaching. I don't think it really matters what kind of voice you have. There is a spot for every voice out there. It's just that you need to know what to do with it. And in the beginning, you won't know what you don't know. So you need to be able to be okay with taking criticism and understanding that you don't know everything and that you need to take instruction. And when you're ready, your coach will tell you that you should make a demo because that demo is your calling card. It's it's kind of your business card as a voice actor. And it's the first thing people are going to listen to when they want to decide whether to hire you or not. So that's really important. And beyond that, everyone's journey is different.
It's crazy because, I've never thought of the power of audio compared, because everybody talks about video.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then when I looked at your profile and you brought up the power of audio with branding, it's crazy because then I thought about, okay, so when I make videos, and if you add music behind it, it makes a video. It can make one video that is decent, amazing, mm-hmm. with the right audio in the background and maybe the right voice, obviously the right voice.
Sure.
So, and with these commercials, it's not just like there's a craft to it, obviously. And, you talk about branding and it's like keeping consistent, the sound, and how you present your company really is like the hidden gem of marketing. Mm-hmm. Can you dig a little deeper into that?
Well, I am one very small part of that entire package. The package being a soundscape that tells other people who your company is and what you stand for and what you are passionate about. And all of those things need to work together with the visual, or you have a disconnect and people aren't going to trust you and they're not really going to be sure why. It's almost subconscious. Also, on video, your video could be perfectly wonderful, but if your audio isn't, it's going to ruin the whole thing. And you can watch a video, I guess you can get a lot from a video by watching, but it's not the same experience. You won't get an emotional impact if there's no sound. And, that goes back to movies and what they do with music, because they influence the emotions that you feel when you're watching. Our senses work together. And I think what I'm trying to get at is that if you're losing out on one sense to really focus on only one, you're not getting the whole picture. You're not creating a sensual experience for the people that are experiencing your company, your brand. And they won't know who you are as well as they could.
It's crazy because last night, my wife was like, "You want to watch The Notebook with me?" I've never watched it. Mm-hmm. And have you ever watched The Notebook?
I think I watched bits and pieces of it, and it destroyed me, and I couldn't watch the whole thing.
so I look over to the right, and I'm working on a website at the point in time, mm-hmm. but I'm listening. But I'm not watching. I'm listening, and I hear the music in the background. I hear. I look over to the right, and my wife is like crying. She's like, it's just so sad. And like you were just watching It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's crazy because music.
Yeah.
If you watch these movies, and if it didn't have any music, it probably wouldn't be as impactful by any means. It just hits you.
Yeah, there's more to it though, especially with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, because I grew up with Mr. Rogers. So
did I.
So it's the sound of his voice, it's the songs that he sang, it was the cadences of his voice. A lot of it was audio. And so I'm watching it on the screen and I'm listening to it at the same time, and it's like grabbing me in my childhood and squeezing my heart.
It took you back in time.
Oh my God, yes.
So it makes you wonder, do you ever like just, if you were to like close your eyes and just listen around you, what you're missing by all the loud noises we have in this day and age, the actual noises that are really around us that we don't even notice, that are very impactful. And everyday life. Like there's been times where I would walk outside and just to get away, walk barefoot in the grass and close my eyes and just listen to the birds. And it brings you to it's like a different energy. And I guess that's the same thing with branding, with movies, with television. It's so important. It's like a science in a way, especially when you're marketing your brand.
Yeah, it totally is a science. And a lot of people have studied it. There are psychological studies out there that talk about the influence that sound has on our buying habits, which I find fascinating because we humans are very complex creatures.
We are.
And our brains are wired weirdly. So seeing how all of the senses work together is really fascinating. And yeah, you can experience sound in an emotional way. Sound and scent are our most powerful senses. And I think in a lot of ways, sound has been evolutionary that way because of evolution. Ugh, I talk for a living. Because of evolution, we have been conditioned to pay a lot of attention to sound. And I don't know that, I think it's only become a recent phenomenon that people are really cluing in to how powerful it is. Because in our development as human beings, we use it for defense. We use it for emotional response. You know, the cries of a baby to the mother, like it's basic. So it's something that's a part of our biological makeup. And in advertising and marketing, it's been an afterthought for a long time and with a lot of people.
I agree. I've never really thought about this aspect of it. And it's very, very, interesting to me. The one thing that is interesting in your audio branding secrets PDF, which will be in the show notes, everybody. So you need to go to the show notes, winwithfred.com. And there's more things too, but you need to go to the show notes. You talk about colors in your branding and what sounds match that. It really takes the power of audio and branding to a new level. Can you explain that?
Well, I mean, there are people who have, I think it's called synesthesia, who like hear colors. There are people who actually are literal in that respect. I'm not necessarily expecting that anyone who gets that PDF is going to be literally, have that ability. And I think it's on the autism spectrum, but I really think of it as a gift. It's incredible. But I think it just is, what emotion do you want to evoke in your clients in general? And if you have chosen a certain color scheme for your company or your brand, there are emotions that those colors evoke.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you do think about that in terms of colors. Now also think about the sounds that go with those colors and the emotions that you're trying to make people feel.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's like science. It's like a deep science.
It totally is. Yeah.
And it amazes me because I know that, because you've been on in some big name brand commercials, been part of big marketing campaigns. And it's like, you see a lot of the behind the scenes of it. There's a lot of like that goes into that.
Oh, they
don't just sit there and say, hey, let's hire somebody to do this voiceover here. Here's your voiceover. It's tonality. It's the way you present it, the music, all that stuff. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly, a lot of that happens before I'm even a part of the picture. So the marketing company or the advertising company, or both, they could have two, those people are the ones who are crafting a brand, who are putting together the emotional feeling of what that brand stands for and who they might attract and who they might repel. And let me just say that repelling people is just as valid as attracting them, because you don't want people who aren't going to be passionate about your brand. And so if that brand isn't for these particular people, that's okay. They are for other people who are attracted, So you need to know who you are so that you can affect which one you go for. And it's kind of the same package, like not everybody likes everything, obviously.
True.
So there are some things that would appeal to you that may not appeal to me. And, you might like this brand and it might feel like they're your people, whereas it might not be my thing. And there's another brand that I appreciate for a different aspect. And all of this goes into crafting a brand voice. And I'm putting that in quotation marks because it's not really like the spoken word voice. What I mean by that is the overall feeling, the overall picture that you present of who you are and what you're passionate about. And that's a big picture. And I'm just one small portion of that big picture.
But it's a very critical portion that you are big time. So how does somebody, like a brand new person, wants to build a brand, how would they identify their brand voice?
Well, there are a bunch of questions to ask yourself, but I think the first thing to find out is, why are you doing what you're doing? So once you know why, you can figure out what emotions you want to evoke in the people who experience your brand. And it's those emotions that will dictate everything. Because what you want people to feel when they think about your product is everything. That's your brand right there.
Yeah, big time. It's crazy. So what is a big no-no in your opinion when it comes to audio branding? Like, have you ever seen any like branding that you were like, oh my gosh, the audio doesn't fit the video?
Yeah, the image. I think a lot of people, if they have an on hold, if they have an IVR system, a phone system or something like that, having on hold music that does not fit their brand is a big no-no. And I think people think it's an afterthought, but if someone's waiting on the line to talk to you, you really want to give them the picture of who your company is instead of, make them think that you're not professional. And having like 80s hairband music on air, on an on-hold messaging system while you're waiting to talk to someone at a high-end jewelry store just really doesn't do it.
You're on hold with Verizon. Please stand by for some Megadeth. It probably would not work. So
it's crazy how little people pay attention to that particular thing. And yet it's a pretty crucial part of a lot of audio branding, if you think about it. Because,
big time.
I mean, how often do we wait on a phone line?
Sometimes way too long.
Yes.
Way too long. So we talk about overcoming fears on the Freddy O show because fears, I believe, are a huge deterrent of helping somebody find their purpose. They could have something very great inside of them, but something is holding them back, and fear is just crazy. So,
sure.
And the voice is a powerful tool. What would you say to someone that is having a hard time putting themselves out there, and how did you overcome any fears, if you had any?
Well, I will say that being a guest on podcast is still a fairly new thing for me. So
you're doing a great job.
Thank you. So yeah, putting yourself out there is scary in general. You know, I don't think any of us are perfectly at ease with this unless we've been doing it for 30 years. And I certainly haven't. I don't know about anyone else, but it does take some time to get used to the sound of your voice. And I will say that I just saw I think it's a vidcast, Marie Forleo TV. Do you know Marie Forleo?
I do not, but I'm going to look her up.
Yeah, I would really suggest that. She just put out a video where she talks to a vocal coach in LA. I believe he's in LA. His name is Roger Love. And he spoke a lot about getting used to the sound of your own voice and recognizing that if you don't like the sound of your own voice, you can change it. That you're not just stuck with it. You are the amalgamation of all of the voices that you heard when you were growing up, and you're just imitating them. So if you can teach yourself to imitate someone else, you know, you will come on to your own style in the process of doing that and get out of the habit of doing some things that you think may be less nice to hear.
Yeah. And it's just about conquering that fear and just doing it. And because you're right, people don't like their own voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that a lot. And I mean, being in the business I am, I've had to, you know, obviously get used to the sound of my own voice. But beyond that, it's training to not be monotone. It's training not necessarily to be a public speaker, but if you are speaking in public, there are ways that you can make your voice more interesting to listen to. And this is a process like everything else. It's not something you learn overnight. It takes time. And yeah, you could be terrified in front of an audience that's listening to you and you thinking in your own head that you're awful. But you know, we're so hard on ourselves, especially creatives. Anyone who does anything creative is just nasty to themselves and their own heads. And I think that quieting that voice can help you get over a lot of fear too.
Beautiful. Love it. Any prepping secrets before you do a voiceover?
Just a lot of hydration and no dairy right before I start.
Okay, guys. So listen, no dairy before you do any kind of speaking. So what's your audio setup look like in your home studio?
I have a 5x4 sound treated booth. So the walls are pretty thick here. They're all treated. It is not soundproofed. And I make that distinction because soundproofing means that no sound would get into this that's outside of the booth. And that's simply not the case. And if I wanted to have something like that, I would probably have to spend, you know, in at least the 5 figures.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it would be really, really expensive. Sound treating is a lot easier and a lot less expensive. Now, I mean, the booth that I have is not inexpensive by any means, but I make a living at this. So, so I've invested in my business, put it that way. But a lot of people can start, you know, with foam and speaking into a foam treated corner and maybe having something behind them and not having a whole bunch of hard surfaces around them, like a carpet under them, or, you know, there's really simple ways to do this that do not cost a lot of money, especially for podcasters. And yeah, it's a great way to increase the nice sound of your microphone by having a sound treated environment. You can get away with not the greatest microphone ever if you have a really good environment in which to use that microphone, because then it can really shine. My mic in particular is a Sennheiser 416, and I use that because of my voiceovers. It's one of the most popular microphones for voice actors, actually, because it kind of makes the voice pop a little in the mix. And often, especially when you're talking commercial and corporate narration and that kind of thing, which are my bread and butter, you are speaking over and complementing the video with music.
Yeah, it's amazing. I actually saw the setup. It's really cool. And it gave me a ton of ideas as far as what I can do in my home, make my home studio even better. So yes, definitely. So you're a Filker.
Yes, I am.
What is that all about?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am a geek. I am a card-carrying geek, yes. And I started going to science fiction fantasy conventions when, 1993, I think. Yeah, so it's been a while. And I got into that through role-playing. So RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of stuff. So I met people who went to these things at gaming get-togethers. And met some musicians that actually went to these things, formed a group. And it turns out that the music that is played at science fiction fantasy conventions is something called Filk, F-I-L-K, which I think stems from a stencil mistake for folk. And instead they used an I. I guess it was like a writer mistake. And this is like back in, I don't know, probably the late 60s, early 70s, something like that. I was not around at that time, but yeah, that's how other people tell it. And yeah, I've been involved in folk music for quite some time. And in fact, used to be a member of a band. Well, I still am a member of the band Urban Tapestry, but we haven't really done anything in a while. Just because it's hard for us to get together and practice. And we have one local convention here in Ontario that happens. And unfortunately, because of COVID, all of these things are canceled and, for the foreseeable future. So, but I also, every year I used to go to a convention in Atlanta that was also a Filk convention where I sang with a 9-piece jazz band.
Wow.
And it was like, so it's great stuff. I mean, we had a lot of fun, but it's a jazz, blues, swing, and Filk music that has that kind of genre feel to it. So we would add the Filk music in there, and it was this really awesome kind of evening for people to have at a Filk convention where they could go and have a nice dinner and dress to the nines and dance. And, we were the entertainment. It was a lot of fun.
So it was like a jam session.
Yeah, kind of. Unfortunately, that convention has been canceled as well. And it's usually at the beginning of January. So yeah, we're canceled out to quite some time.
I know it's been crazy. The whole COVID thing and all the stuff that's been like twisting life around a little bit. But you know what? You take that and you run with it. And you know what? There's always next year. Are you saying next year's was canceled already?
Yeah, this was January 2021. Yeah, it was already canceled because, well, first of all, I'm in Canada, so our borders are actually closed, and I don't know when they're opening. So I won't be able to make that trip until that opens, first of all. But second of all, I think a lot of people just are, they don't want to gather. It's worrying. And also, second wave could happen around September, October, November, and no one really knows exactly how that's going to go. And I think people are just nervous of large gatherings of strangers in any case. So
you're right. Cause it's, I can't even imagine, like, for instance, even a big football game or baseball games getting together, how you're like a sardine in some of these concert halls. It's going to be a stigma that's going to last for a while. Even when this goes away, it's still going to be in the back of our minds.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. But you stay positive, you stay focused. And so how have you, like, for instance, did you do a lot of traveling or did you always do your vocals within your studio?
Well, it depends on what I was doing. As far as voiceover is concerned, usually I do it in my studio. And that's why I have the setup that I do, because I'm remote ready. And I have been remote ready for probably at least 7+ years. I've been doing this since 2007, but you perfect your sound and you get your studio all set. And I, had to build my studio, box here, my padded room.
The padded room.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I often tell people I spend all day talking to myself in a padded room. Yes.
That's great. But no, it's just cool that you are using your voice for your career. And we talked about this a little bit. You don't do like actual voice acting in like a movie or anything. But if somebody approached you, would you go for it?
Yeah, I probably would. I don't typically do animation or video games or anything like that. I definitely do not do audiobooks and have absolutely no interest in that. I totally commend the people who do it, but it's just way too much of a slog for me to continue.
That. Snoozer.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sure that I know that the people who love to do it because it's an acting smorgasbord. I mean, like, you're doing everything, especially if it's fiction. Like, if it's nonfiction, that's something else. But fiction, oh my goodness. I mean, so much to grab onto. And I get it. If you're in theater or you want to be a film person and you want to be on camera and on a stage, then yeah, I totally get it. But that's never been my dream. I came at this from singing. So my thing is commercials and corporate narration. And I love that stuff. It's just, it is a challenge to me to allow the writer and the audio engineer and everyone experiencing that brand to hear my voice in their head representing their brand. Like, I think that's a thrill for me.
Oh, it's awesome. If you were to say who was in your eyes, the best of other than yourself, the best of the best when it comes to voiceover?
Oh my goodness. That is a really hard question because there are so many different genres.
I think I'm going to throw mine out there real quick.
Go ahead.
I like Seth MacFarlane.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
He's brilliant. It's crazy. And oh my gosh, what's the other guy from Saturday Night Live? He's freaking so good. I can't think of his name. Bill Hader. Okay. Yeah, he's good too. But yeah, Seth MacFarlane blows me away.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I would totally agree. And I would agree because of not just his comedic timing and his voice skills with animation, but also because he can act on screen too. Like he can do dramatic stuff. Like he's an all around fantastic actor. And I think in that sense, if you're talking about voice acting as an acting trade, yeah, he would definitely be at the top of my list.
But anybody else?
I think Don LaFontaine, who used to do the whole In a World trailers, he was really, really good at what he did. And it was a very specialized genre, and he did a whole bunch of stuff with it. And there was a lot of skill that went into that no one knew was a skill until he started doing it. So he was, he started it all off, and it was a mistake. I mean, like he just subbed in for someone who didn't show, and they loved him. And it became like, I don't know how many years career,
So he did, you probably, if you said what he says, I probably would know. In a World, what do you mean by that?
Well, he did the trailer voices. So I don't know. There aren't very many voices in trailers these days. They just don't use that anymore. But, when they were doing trailers where they would actually have a voice describing what happened on screen.
Oh, like Jodi Krangle, full-time voice actor since 2007. Voiceover and vocals.com. Check it out. Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It started off.
Listen, you can hire me as well, people. Listen, I need some work. Damn it. So real quick, make sure you go to winwithfred.com. Look at the show notes. You're going to get the top 5 tips for implementing an intentional audio strategy, audio branding worksheet, which also gives you access to the Studio Resources Center. And also in the show notes, you get ways to get a hold of Jodi and potentially take advantage of her services, because you'll do voiceovers for anybody, pretty much, as long as it fits your what's good, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, if they think that I would fit their brand, I'm more than willing to talk with them. I also do intros and outros for podcasts. So I've done that several times and really enjoy that as well. And if I'm not the right voice, I can, point them in the right direction. I know a lot of people who who are bilingual, who have different accents and are from different places in the world. And, depends on what you need.
Hello, governor. Different accents. So also visit voiceoverandvocals.com. It'll be in the show notes to learn more about Jodi and listen to her podcast, the Audio Branding Podcast. And you know what? If you go to her website, you can hear all the commercials she's done. It's brilliant. I brought my wife in here, Christy, and I'm like, listen to this. I go, this is the NFL. This is Disney. All this stuff, and you've really done some major work. So I'm super happy that you've been on the show. So, okay, we're going to go to the super hyper fast Q&A round.
Sure.
So, are you ready? Here we go. So what animal would be cutest if scaled down to the size of a hamster?
That is a really good question, and I'm trying to do this lightning fast, and
you're doing a great job.
Hippopotamus.
Huh?
A hippopotamus.
Ooh, very good. Very good answer. That would be very cute. What weird food combination do you really enjoy?
Weird food combination. I'm drawing a blank. Oh my goodness.
Mine is applesauce and mashed potatoes.
Oh, but that's not like, have you ever had potato latkes?
What's that?
Potato latkes are, it's they're almost like hash browns. It's like a Jewish culture dish, So they fry up, they make slivers of potato and then, put egg in it and fry it up kind of like a little pancake. And then you put sour cream and applesauce on top of it. And
so it's not that weird, my combo.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, it's not that weird.
Oh, gosh. But do you have any? We can go back to this question. Think about it in your mind.
I'll have to think about that. I honestly, I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Okay. What movie can you watch over and over again without getting tired of it? Oh, no, another blank.
I'm not doing very well with these questions. Oh, my goodness.
Mine is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Really? Okay.
I love it. And I always get choked up at the end.
Yeah, I can see why. It's a good movie.
Yes.
I don't tend to watch movies again. That's just a weird quirk of mine. I watch a movie once and then I'm done.
One and done. So there's no, and that's a fair answer.
Yeah.
One and done. So what's your favorite movie? Or is that a tough one too? It's tough.
Well, I mean, it depends on what I've been watching. Way back when Helena Bonham Carter was brand new, she did a movie called Lady Grey. And it was based on Jane Grey's really, really brief stint as Queen of England, like back in way back.
Okay.
And I think she lasted something like 14 days or 12 days or something like that. And then she was beheaded.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, yeah, exactly.
This is a kid's show.
Yeah. But it was a really, really good movie. And actually Patrick Stewart played her father. And it was an excellent, excellent movie. And I actually went into the theater and saw it when it first came out. And I really, really liked it. And I mean, historical stuff I've always enjoyed. So that kind of, I liked it.
Historical and sci-fi. Fantastic.
Well, yeah.
So if someone narrated your life, who would you want that narrator to be?
Oh my. Oh my goodness. Thompson, what is her name? Oh, this is so awful. My mind is completely blank.
I'm going to name mine. I would want James Earl Jones.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Just because he would make me sound cool. So.
Yeah, Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson.
Thompson.
Did I say it right?
Thompson.
Thompson.
Yeah. Emma Thompson. Yes.
Oh, I forgot this one. What's your cure for hiccups?
I actually drink water from the other side of the cup. So you have to bend over to do it. And when you're drinking water to get rid of hiccups.
Yeah. So I can't picture this. So say it again.
Okay. So you fill a cup with water, right?
Okay.
And then you drink from the other side of the cup. So like not the side closest to you, but the one on the other end. So you have to bend over to do it because you have to sort of like fit your mouth over the further part of the cup, right? But it works. It totally works.
That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah, I think it's because you're bending over and you're drinking at the same time, and I think it gets rid of the bubble.
Actually, I chew ice cubes or I scare myself. One or the other.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to what food combination. Do you have anything?
No, honestly. I don't have anything that would be considered strange. I don't know.
What's your favorite food?
I really like omelets. I don't know why that is, but like.
No, that's good. And it's low carb.
Well, I'm keto, so I've been keto for a long time. So
I am too.
So the combinations are a little less. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah. And I actually made my own bread. I was so pumped about it. I made 3 loaves of it.
Oh yeah.
And my wife, it was good. It was as close to bread as you can get with keto. Okay, let's be real. You're not gonna. It doesn't taste like real bread. But I put it up in a baggie, and I was ready to have a slice. And Christy goes, "Fred, don't eat that." I go, "Why? What's wrong?" She goes, "It molded." I go, "Okay, I got to find a way to make bread that tastes good and doesn't mold within a day." Oh, it was nuts. It was crazy. I don't know. Maybe you have to refrigerate it. I don't know. It's a learning experience. But I do love keto. You feel so much better with it. And but okay. So thank you so much. You did a great job in the super hyper fast Q&A round. You really did.
Not so fast.
You wasn't so fast, but it was great. So one last shout out to the Freddy O Show fam that you can feel can have an impact on them today. And that's all the stuff that you gave us was fantastic stuff. And before you do that, think about that for a second. One last shout out. Okay, guys, fam, listen. Let me get this straight. Here we go. Make sure you go to winwithfred.com to get the free downloads that Jodi has to offer, her contact information, and visit her podcast and go to her website, voiceoverandvocals.com, and the Audio Branding Podcast. Make sure you do that. So, final thought. What is one last shout out to the Freddy O fan that you feel can have an impact on them right now?
Well, I would say if you are thinking of reaching an audience of any kind, that you shouldn't only concentrate on the visual, but also concentrate on the audio and make sure that it fits the emotion that you want your listeners or experiencers to have when they experience what you have to offer.
You are a rock star, and I would love to have you on again. Thank you so much. And guys, seriously, if you want a voiceover for intros and outros, you know what? Listen to her voice. It sounds great. And so I'll put the contact information in there. Once again, Jodi, thank you so much for being on the Freddy O Show. You're awesome.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's been fun.
Awesome.